shape the fire that's shaping me. You give and take, still I will sing your name. My harbor, my one king, hammer out in me. Set me free, right your will in the heart of me.
Episode 18. Hammer Out Envy. Part 5. The Freedom. Chorus 3. You give and take, still I will sing your name, my harbour, my one king. Hammer out envy, set me free. Write your will in the heart of me. Be it joy or night or flame, I bow to you, only you remain. The chorus opens the same way it always has. You give and take. Same words, same declaration of divine sovereignty that chorus 2 carried, that Job carried before it, that the whole of part 3 was built on. Nothing has changed about the giving and the taking. God is still the one who decides what hearts receive. The thread he weaves is still the thread he weaves. The hand behind the distribution of joy and lack and refinement is still his hand, purposeful, knowing, aimed at something larger than any single receiving or withholding. But everything has changed about the person saying it. Still I will sing. That word, still, is carrying the weight of the entire journey. It is not a naive still. It is not the still of someone who has never been in the wound, never made the accusation, never stood in the ruins of what was taken and asked, why take from me what I most need? It is the still of someone who has been through all of that and come out the other side, not unchanged, but transformed. Not undamaged, but made true. Not without hunger, but no longer chained to it. Still I will sing is the declaration that the worship is no longer conditional. It is no longer a transaction. I will sing if you give me what I asked for. I will praise if the blessing arrives. I will worship if the circumstances confirm that you are good. The conditionality has been burned away in the forge. What remains is the singing itself, chosen, deliberate, offered from a place that has learned to hold both the giving and the taking as equally the hand of a father who knows what he is doing. Your name, my harbour, my one king. A harbour is where you go when the sea is too much, when the storm has been running long and the wind has been taking everything that wasn't secured, and the water has come over the side, and the question is no longer about arriving somewhere, but about surviving the night. A harbour is not a luxury. It is the thing that makes the continuing possible. His name is the harbour. Not a doctrine about him, not a theological framework constructed around him. His name, the personal, intimate, present reality of who he is the place the storm-tossed heart returns to. Not because the storm stops when you get there, because the harbour holds. Because whatever the sea takes, the harbour remains. Because the name of the Lord, as Proverbs says, is a strong tower, and the righteous run into it and are safe. My one king. Not one of several, not the primary among competing loyalties. One, the only. The reordering that Kingdom First required, the placing of his sovereignty above the hunger, above the comparison, above the pride of deserving, has produced this: a singular allegiance, a heart that has come through the forge with its loyalties clarified. He is king. Everything else, joy, night, flame, the giving, the taking, the fullness and the lack, everything else is territory in his kingdom, and he rules it all. Hammer out envy, set me free. Now the forge metaphor returns, and it returns in its most direct and specific form. Not burn what's false in the general sense, not shape the fire in the broad sense. Hammer out envy, this specific thing, this particular, named, identified thing that started the whole journey. In the cold, in the comparison, on the little league field, in the watching of other people's fires while mine stayed cold. Hammer it out. The image is precise. You do not hammer out something by removing it. You hammer it out by working it through, by applying force and heat until the thing that was rigid and grasping and bent in on itself is beaten into a new shape. The envy is not extracted like a foreign object. It is worked, submitted to the hammer of the forge again and again, in the continued practice of altar-going, of laying the want back down, of choosing kingdom first when the hunger rises and the comparison returns and the old measuring starts up again. This is why the freedom of part 5 is not the end of the struggle. The hammering is ongoing. The forge is still running. But the difference between the person who arrives at this chorus and the person who stood in the cold of verse 1 is not that the envy no longer rises. It is that now there is a hammer, a forge, a smith who knows what he is making, and a person who has consented to the process deeply enough to ask for it by name. Hammer out envy. Set me free. The freedom and the hammering are not sequential. First the hammering, then the freedom. They are simultaneous. The freedom is found inside the process, not after it. Each time the want is submitted to the forge, each time the comparison is brought to the smith rather than nursed into accusation, each time the still, I will sing, is chosen over the, why take from me? That is the freedom. Not a destination, a direction. A continued, practiced, grace-sustained orientation toward the King rather than toward the lag. Write your will in the heart of me. This is Jeremiah 31, the new covenant promise. Not the law written on stone tablets, external, requiring the constant effort of remembrance and compliance, but the law written on the heart, interior, native. The will of God, not as a set of instructions to be followed, but as the actual shape of who you are becoming. The want transformed not just in behavior, but in nature. The desire itself rewritten at the source. Write your will in the heart of me is the prayer that the transformation would go all the way down. Not just the behavior changing, not just the actions conforming, the heart itself. The place where the want lives, where the hunger originates, where the envy has its root, rewritten, made native to his will, so that the kingdom-first ordering is not a daily battle against a self that wants the opposite, but the natural expression of a heart that has been written on by God himself. This is the long work, the work of a lifetime. The work that the forge is doing, one session at a time, one altar visit at a time, one still I will sing at a time. And it is happening, slowly, without announcement, in the continued choosing and the continued returning and the continued submission to the hammer. Be it joy or night or flame, I bow to you. 3 states, 3 distinct experiences of being alive in a world where God gives and takes. Joy, abundance, the open-handed receiving of what God gives. The full hearth, the warm room, the arms that hold something, the dream that arrived, the recognition that came. Joy is real. It is not a trick or a test or something to be suspicious of. It is the good gift of a generous Father, and it is meant to be received with gratitude and held with open hands. Night. Quiet, empty lack. The cold hearth. The silent halls. The place where the giving has not come, and the waiting has been long, and the dark is the primary texture of the experience. Night is the territory most of this series has lived in, and the bow in the night is the hardest bow, the worship that costs the most. The still I will sing, spoken from the place where everything in you wants to ask why instead. Flame, refinement, the forge, the active, painful, purposeful process of God working something in you that could not be made any other way. The stripping and the hammering and the burn what's false and shape the fire. The flame is not punishment. It is the smith at work. But it is costly while it is burning, and the bow in the flame requires a trust that has been built through every previous episode of this journey. Be it joy or night or flame, I bow to you. Not, I bow when I understand what you are doing. Not, I bow when the state I am in is one I would have chosen. Not, I bow when the giving outweighs the taking and the math works in my favor. In all three, in every state, in the abundance and the lack and the fire, I bow. Because in all three, in the joy and the night and the flame, only one thing has been consistent. Only one thing has never shifted, never withdrawn, never been absent or changed based on what was being given or taken. Only one thing remained through the cold hearth and the aching arms and the cracked place where words should be, and the dangerous prayer, and the dark, and the stripping, and the shame, and the sovereignty, and the forge. Only you remain. Not the joy. Joy comes and goes. Not the night. Night lifts eventually. Not even the flame. The fire cools when the work is done. Only you. Present in the giving and the taking. Consistent in the abundance and the lack. Unchanged by the state I am in. The same harbor in the storm as in the calm. The same king in the flame as in the feast. Only you remain. That is not a small declaration. That is the destination the whole journey was aimed at. Not a destination you arrive at and stay at without effort, but a truth you arrive at through the fire and carry forward as the settled conviction beneath every future giving and taking. The anchor that holds in every state. The one remaining thing. And it turns out, it has always been enough. More than enough. Only you.